as an audience member, I was blown away when I watched the movie. I could like barely speak, for a few minutes after. I was just trying to process what I had watched,
All right, Keith, big old blockbuster, Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible, action IP, major motion picture series. Give me one word to describe Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Stunts. Stunts is the word that I'm going to go with. It's stuntastic.
Nice.
What about you?
I can't think of just one word. I have two words. Is that allowed?
No.
But they go together. They go together. All
right, then sure, I'll allow it.
My word is too much. Too much.
Council Pop. Interesting. I had from your text earlier, I had a hint of where we were going to go with this, but that's why I didn't respond.
Yeah. I was texting with Keith. We don't ever talk ahead of time about these council pops, like the new movies. We never talk about how we feel until we're on air with you guys, so we can all share this moment together. But I texted Keith. Just got out of the film. It started last night, and somehow is just now getting done the following morning. So a little bit long, but let's
see those
start
hilarious
with
text messages you guys are missing out on.
Yeah, join us on Patreon. We'll post all of our text threads.
Please join us on Patreon.
Yeah. No, seriously, it's kind of a real thing now. We're still working on it, though. We're still working the bugs out. Please send us money. In the meantime, just Venmo me directly. Hundreds of dollars.
I'm sure I'll see Keith, some of that money.
You got 60 seconds on the clock. Do you want to go first?
I'll go first if that's how we do it.
Okay. Lead the way, Toots.
Lead the way, Toots.
Toots?
Still offensive. This movie is fine. That when we talk about this movie is exactly what it needs to be, and the charm and the excitement and the hype and the reason why people go see the movie is not the movie itself. There's more to talk about around this movie than there is about the movie itself. In a vacuum, this movie at best is fine, and I don't mean that as an insult. It's just fine. It's just fine. There's some things we could nitpick and things we could point out, and I'm sure we will. But there's other things that are really cool. There are really fun movie moments that happen in this thing that we can all talk about later around the water cooler, and that's awesome too. So it's fine. You're not gonna remember it 5 years from now and be like, this was a great one. We're gonna look back. But it's fine. It's good for today. I think the more interesting thing is to talk about all the things around this movie and what this movie represents and the implications of it. That's what I'm really fascinated by, the filmmaking aspect of it.
Yeah. All right, that's fair. Everybody's loving this movie. Everybody's loving it. Top to bottom, fans, critics, everybody. Oh, it's so good. I'm not seeing any bad feedback.
And so what I think is not a very hot take will probably be trashed because I'm not glowing about it. Everett, your time begins.
Yeah, I'll avoid any hyperbolic big swings here, but I will just say that this movie's not as good as everyone says it is. Like it's just not. As a movie, watching this movie, I was a little disappointed because the way it's being heralded is like, oh man, this is going to be like Top Gun Maverick, which I thought was a really phenomenal film, a really excellent big movie showing you how to do it. This movie only has like a couple of moments that I was like, oh, this is bad, which is pretty good for today. for big movies today, to only have like 2 or 3 little occurrences where I was like, oh Jesus, you're gonna lose me. Like it's a little corny, a little stupid, unbelievable. But so the rest of it's pretty good to really good. There are parts that are really good, but there's just so much of all of it. It's almost like too much of a good thing. Like the oversaturation of stuff kind of like works against the stuff that's really excellent. So just briefly, one quick example of that is like the sequence at the end where the train is falling off the tracks car by car and they are climbing up. That is an incredible sequence that is so cool, such an awesome idea, pretty well executed. Should be like the moment of moments, but it comes in the midst of a 3-hour fucking over swollen thing that has so much bullshit and so many moving parts and so much stuff to keep track of that it just started to feel kind of noisy and like, oh, this isn't hitting as hard as it should. Like it should all build to this moment because it's so cool, but it doesn't. And we can talk more about that. So I'll just say it's a lot. It's too much. It's too much. The more I think about this movie and the more I'm going to talk about it, I'm going to like it less. So
yeah, you're going to talk yourself out of liking it.
Yeah, yeah. Because I felt by the end of this movie, it's 2 hours and 43 minutes. It feels it. it feels its length. And it's tough because I don't know how a film that's almost 3 hours can still feel so bloated. And that's one of my major criticisms, where it's like, you got a 3-hour movie, everything in the movie should be like allowed to breathe, and I should have a pretty good sense of like character motivation and a pretty clear sense of like who these people are and why they're doing what they're doing and really feel invested in everybody. That's not the case in this movie.
Who is that person? I have no idea.
How many characters do you think are in this movie that you are required as an audience member to keep track of, to understand their motivations, and ideally, and as we're watching a film, feel some type of way or investment in? How many characters do you think that I would qualify as sort of like important characters to the story?
4.
Okay. I counted 14. Okay? I counted 14 people that you have to keep track of and understand and care about. You got Tom Cruise, you got the new girl Grace, Hayley Atwell, you got Rebecca, the old flame, you got Ving, Simon Pegg, Vanessa Kirby, her brother, the new villain Gabriel, Pom Klementieff, the Asian gal. You got the return of Kittredge. You got the 2 detectives that are following him also, for some reason, from America. You got Carrie Elways as the guy in charge, and you have the AI entity itself. And these are all characters that you have to at least understand some degree of, even the minor ones that you're going to try to tell me are not, because there's these big emotionally impactful scenes where their motivations need to play a role. Pom Klementieff, who's silent, has no lines throughout the entire film, and then ends up playing this majorly important role in the climax of the film.
I was just trying to process what I had watched, you know?
And you we're supposed to care. I'm sorry. Like, in 3 hours, you didn't give me any reason to care or be interested in this character. So that's just one example. I digress.
Well, do you want me to argue that? Or do you just want to just move on?
You're incorrect.
I agree with you in like theory. I agree with you in theory, but I think this movie, that stuff doesn't matter. I think the people that are important in this movie are Tom Cruise, Hayley Atwell or Atwater. I always mix it up.
Atwell.
Was it Rebecca Ferguson? I'm not good with names. Rebecca Ferguson, her, Gabriel. I don't even know his actual name.
Yeah, Asai Morales.
I guess the entity. That's someone I didn't think of the entity, but yes, I would include that. I think those 5. Those are the 5 people that make this movie go, and those are the people. Their motivations are driving the story forward. The rest of it is where you say it's too much. That I kind of get. Like, there is a lot of other extraneous things that kind of detract from those people's story. But those are your main characters, and you can't just name every character in the movie and say, "But what about that person?" Because not every character
it all
really matters.
That's
in that
the
way.
thing. There's always going to be a power structure in terms of these are the main characters, these are the next. I get that. I'm not saying they're all equal level of importance, but they are all important enough cogs of the story that you need for any of these big moments to have emotional effect on me as the viewer. I need to understand their motivations, how they fit together etc., etc. I don't need a backstory. I don't need a full biography of every character. But just for the purpose of their role in the story, I need to know why it's a big deal that Pom Klementieff, why is she motivated to betray her boss, and why is this Shea Wiggum, the actor, the American guy that's chasing after him, the law enforcement dude, why is it so important to him? What's his history with Ethan Hunt, that he's pointing a gun at him next to the car chase, and I can't do it, and then at the end, I'm gonna get him. Have we ever met this guy before? Like,
no.
Those moments don't mean anything. They just fall flat because there's too much. Carrie Elwes is here now at the end. So wait, is he the bad guy? Who's he? Wait, is Kittredge still working for him? Why is Kittredge just now coming back 30 years later? But there's no explanation. Where has he been? Has he not? Shouldn't he have, like, you're introducing a lot. Like, this to me is like an Infinity War level event in the Mission Impossible multiverse of all of these things coming together. But at least 4 or 5 or even 6 of like the important characters have never been here before. They've done no backstory on who these people are and why they matter to our heroes.
Yeah.
So you're rapidly trying to introduce really important storylines and make us feel about these people, while a convoluted story of double crosses and triple crosses and triple stamp and a double stamp.
You can't triple stamp a double stamp. You can't triple stamp a double stamp, Lloyd. You can't triple stamp a double stamp.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. I feel like that's typically an argument that I would take. And I'm not like, oh, you're completely wrong. Like, I hear what you're saying, and it makes sense. Like, you're, in theory, correct. I kind of look at this movie and I go, well, yeah, I don't think this movie is trying to do that. I don't think this movie is trying to be deep. I don't think this movie is trying to be super intelligent. I don't think this movie is trying to do anything but, like, entertain you. And I think it does a good enough job in the story department, because that's typically where I'm on your side of the fence. Like, yeah, this story doesn't make any sense. And of course, there are things I want to nitpick too, and I will. But as a whole, I look at the movie, and I've done a little bit of research, so even going in, I sort of knew what the goal was, and I go, they did it.
I don't know, like, I understand, like, the entertainment value. You think it outweighs, or you might think it outweighs whatever little story deficiencies or character development deficiencies or whatever. And if that, yeah, sure, it is entertaining. But I kind of think, like, this isn't Fast X though. Like, those movies are just like, fucking turn your brain off and look at the bright explosions. So
right.
this is not
a
that.
Better
These
version of that,
these sort
though.
of,
it's in that.
But yeah, but is it? I mean, it is. But like, it builds itself. These movies have built themselves as almost like, I don't want to say the thinking man's action movies, because that's not correct, but like a slightly more intellectually elevated, where the story and the spy, the espionage, like that's how this film series started. Like the original Mission Impossible movie in '96 was like not that much action. Like it was much more spy thriller focused, which was awesome. Yeah. Wish they'd sprinkle one of those into the series once in a while. But so it's hard for me to just be like, yeah, is it mostly entertaining? Yeah, it's mostly entertaining. But do I need 2 hours and 45 minutes of that? And then here's the inverse is Mission Impossible Fallout is a phenomenal movie. I love the last one, and I think it does everything that it need. That this amazing action, and a really interesting, impactful story that is still concise enough to not be like this scene in the club in this one where all of a sudden all the characters are together and I'm like, wait, who the fuck? Like, who works for who? That's another thing, is like a lot of these movies, a lot of the side characters are not impactful enough in earlier films to really have and maybe it's just for me, but to really have like to leave a lasting impression. So like Rebecca Ferguson's character, I'm like, oh yeah, she's been in 4 or 5 of these, and I'm just like, what? Doesn't she just always kind of show up and fuck everything up and almost die, and then she betrays him, but then they like each other sometimes. Like, so just she shows up again, and am I supposed to care about their dynamic? Probably, but I don't. There's no background.
I truly believe that the goal of this film is to be action and entertainment and revitalizing the artistry of filmmaking in how you create those moments. Like that's goal number one. And then a clear number two goal is to have some semblance of a story. Like we're not going to completely abandon it to a point where nothing makes sense. Like it makes sense, but it's just the highest level possible so everyone can go along on the ride. I just think that's the goal of it. So I hear you, that would make this film much better. All the things you're talking about would make this film better. I agree, but I just don't think that was a priority. This script, I was gonna say, and I do want to talk about the script because I think it's gonna circle back to your point a little bit. There is no script. Spoiler alert, this film didn't have a script.
We didn't really have a script as such.
There is no script, it's an outline, and they just pick 6, 5, whatever, how many key action scenes that they want.
You know, obviously McHugh as the director is also the writer, and so he knows the sort of the shape at least of it and the large sort of set pieces. But him and Tom like to work together and almost kind of make it up as we go. Not as sort of.
You know, it would be great if Tom Cruise did this. We put him on a train. What if we put him on a train this time? They just chart it out and they just start working on those scenes. They start working on those scenes because they're really difficult to do. And then they just figure out the scenes in between those scenes with the talkies.
The thing is, like, the story is always changing, you know? So there's, like, right? It's, like, always ongoing conversations with Tom and McHugh, and, you know, it's just, we kind of go with the flow, right?
The director of the film called them the scenes that say the reason why. So it's literally just, we talk to give us a reason to go to the next scene. We do the big set piece, and then we stop and we talk again. We do the next big set piece, and then we stop and we talk again. That's the whole movie.
We didn't know exactly where we're gonna go with it. You know, it was trying to figure out where our characters would go each step of the way.
So it's very clear the intent of what we're trying to do here. So I don't think we'll ever get emotionally attached to these characters because we're not doing the work to get us there. The thing that felt the most
but that's what I'm complaining about.
Yeah,
Like,
but would you complain about it if that's the goal?
yes, I complain that that's the goal. Like this is like we're talking about this like it's Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Like yes, the fact
No,
that
that's
you're
different.
just
That's just
you're
shitty. That's
sure,
just shitty.
it's much shittier. But
That's much shitty.
Yeah, if the goal is just to get from action scene to action scene, who cares really about what else? Yes, that's shitty. That's awful.
They almost reverse engineer the way you think films should be made.
Here's why I give this film a break and not Doctor Strange. I'm glad you brought Doctor Strange up.
Think about it every day. It makes me so mad.
I really do. I really do.
Free.
The thing I wanted to say is that the reason why I cut this film a break and I don't cut Doctor Strange a break at all is because the effort.
Sure.
You tell me, do you think that there's effort in making this film? Do you see effort?
Of course.
Of course. Did you see effort in Doctor Strange?
Of course not.
Yes, that is my point, and I think that's what's exciting about it, and that's why I give it a break. If you want to say, here's where our attention is, here's where our money's going, it's bringing these crazy ideas to life in a very real way. If Marvel made this movie and was all in a fucking blue room and Tom Cruise is just on a thing where he just goes, ah, and like that's it, and they just put everything else around or whatever, this movie's pure fucking dog shit. It's pure dog shit. What makes the movie exciting and fun and enjoyable is that it's real and how difficult that is to actually execute from a filmmaking standpoint. That's what's amazing about this movie. So if you're just gonna tell me our design here is to entertain you and this is how we're gonna do it, by doing something that no one else is doing or wants to even like go down and experience or deal with, like, and it's what we want, practicality, you talk about it every episode, then we should be commending the film for it and forgiving it for some of its mistakes, because you gotta give somewhere, right? God doesn't give with both hands.
You don't have to give somewhere. But yeah, I'm
Does that
willing
make
to heap a lot of
sense?
yeah. I'm willing to heap a ton of praise on it for the substantial practicality. But that's another one of my points, my little gripes here. Is like, I know there's a ton of practical stuff. This movie clearly, I think, does a lot of practical stuff, and then what we always pine for is they aid it with digital.
Yeah, of course.
This movie, though, I felt like I noticed in a couple of the large set pieces more digital effects than I would have expected. I would say primarily in the car chase when they're driving the Fiat, where they're obviously, we've seen behind the scenes footage, they're obviously there. There's a ton of really awesome real shots mixed in, like with the cameras mounted on the cars and really awesome cinematography that's just riveting stuff. But then it'll cut to some scene of the Fiat like tumbling or something, and it's clearly computerized. So then it's like, okay, well, I guess we'll take what we can get. And then the big train battle between Gabriel and Ethan Hunt, where they're on top of the train, and a lot of that fight scene looks really digital. And then so this just it brings me all the way around to like, I always bring up, I'm sorry, Jackie Chan fought on top of a train in one of my favorite Jackie Chan movies, Super Cop. And like, so it's like if Tom Cruise is going all in on making this like I do my own stunts, my thing, which I kind of wish he wouldn't. It's kind of like a crutch for him now. He's like limiting himself, like, oh, that's what he does. And then I wonder, what is Tom Cruise left with? Because he only makes Mission Impossible movies now. So then are these just gonna run their course and be totally computerized in a few years because he can't?
Well, he's gonna make another Top Gun Maverick or Maverick 2 or I guarantee it. He's gonna make another one of those.
I want him to, like, he's so passionate about films. So I'd love him to show some of that passion to like another genre. Like, not just Mission Impossible.
So I'm glad you brought that up because this is one of my hot takes. I appreciate what's happening with this film, and I'm willing to give more praise than you apparently on what this film is trying to do and why that's a good thing, and it's not just a fucking CGI Marvel light show mess.
I'll take this every day.
I'll take it every day. I'll go see this. I'll go see the next one. I'm excited to see the next one. Not because I think it's gonna be a great movie, but it'll be fun and it's worth my $15. Take it, Tom Cruise. You've earned it. Awesome.
Yeah.
On the other side of that coin, though, I think it's ironic because these movies, these types of movies, and this movie in particular, are actually what's killing movie theaters. Because of what you just said. What you just said is, it's the only thing they make. Because it's the only thing that makes money. So it's the only thing we see. So it's the only thing we go to see because it's all there is to see. If Tom Cruise wanted to save the movie industry, he'd try and take that real level of filmmaking and make A Few Good Men.
Yeah.
Make me go see A Few Good Men again. Another version of that or whatever. Like, give me something give me Risky Business.
Yeah. Make like a small to mid-budget like comedy or drama or personal film.
And prove to studios, prove to the world that these are bankable too.
Yeah.
That's how Tom Cruise saves movies, not by doing more of the same shit that's already working.
Yeah, do like a big period piece.
You're only hammering the nail into the coffin quicker. The more successful these movies are.
That's an interesting concept because now that we're shitting on Tom Cruise.
I respect it on the other side of the coin.
I know. I'm really grateful. I've heaped a lot of praise on Tom Cruise on this show. But like this issue with Tom Cruise only doing this type of movies in his pursuit to save movie-going experience is like another problem with that you have to take that with a little grain of salt is Tom Cruise, I think, kind of famously has a bit of an ego and never wants to be outshone in his movies. It's a Tom Cruise picture. And that's one of the reasons, maybe the key reason, why most of these Mission Impossible movies don't surround him with what you might call an all-star cast. Like there are familiar faces, Fallout being a pretty notable exception, where you had Henry Cavill in there and Angela Bassett and Alec Baldwin shows up, and that's one of the many reasons why Fallout is superior and is a really good movie, is you feel like there's more weight. And so in this movie, and I'm gonna talk about the cast a little bit, I don't mean disrespect to any of these people, because I think they're all perfectly talented enough and do a great job in a lot of stuff. But there's roles here that would be a lot better with bigger stars, and that in of itself would help theaters because that's going to bring more people. And then Tom Cruise is using that celebrity and that power that he has to like raise up and legitimize other stars. A character like Gabriel, the actor Cy Morales, is a very good actor. I've seen him in Ozark. He's very good. Or the American Fed that's chasing him, played by Shea Whigham, who's like a great character actor who's been in everything for the last 30 years. What if that was John Bernthal? Or it was some like a guy that
that's
you're
a great cast. You should be a casting director.
Thank you. Like a little weight to it, you know? And like Cy Morales, like give me somebody that's going to command the screen a little more.
How about The Rock?
Vin Diesel.
Hey guys,
Kevin Hart could be the Ving Rhames character.
Now we're making movies.
So you got to question if Tom Cruise's number one priority is filling those seats, or if that's 1A or 1B, and 1A is make me look cool as shit. I'm the guy.
Yeah. Well, he may, in his own defense, I guess, like if he may think that he is I'm enough. I'm the thing.
Well, I'm sure he does think that.
Genuinely believes that. He doesn't think that what he's doing is a hindrance, even though you are right. I agree with you 110%. It would make this movie better to have a little bit. This movie would be better if it had an actual script and a little less action and more character development and bigger stars, or more, maybe not bigger stars, but just better casting. Just maybe a general statement.
It's bigger stars. I think it's bigger stars. I think the actors do fine. The actors that are there do fine. I think Hayley Atwell is like a good choice for the new character. I think she does good. She's like a fringe enough name. But most other people, you got Simon Pegg and Ving Rhames kind of on the downturn of their careers. No disrespect, very talented dudes who I've liked a lot.
Yeah, but they've been there
years.
forever. They gotta be.
But I'm just saying that you're not like, you needed to inject some fresh blood. But you have these main adversaries, and those need to, like, Tom Cruise is such a magnetic star. He is a uniquely magnetic movie star, the likes of which we may never see again. And I've thought that forever. You need someone that can share the screen with him and not be completely overpowered, which I think, no disrespect to Cy Morales or Shea Whigham, but they don't have Tom Cruise, and that's who he's facing off against. So I want, I know he wouldn't do it probably, but get, Ben Affleck, get somebody who's like a name to come be the villain. Get a guy, pay Denzel Washington $100 million to come be the baddie in your movie like that. Like, then it feels even more of an event.
That would be great. Those two things would make this film better.
Look at Mission Impossible 3 with Philip Seymour Hoffman, where it's like that's a memorable character. He was the villain. He's incredible. I think about that character all the time whenever I think about Mission Impossible movies. Like, that was a highlight. Who was the villain in Ghost Protocol? Who was the villain in Rogue Nation? I have no fucking idea. And sorry if it's somebody important. I don't know.
It was The Rock.
Yeah, it probably was.
Oh, shut your mouth, you thong-wearing fatty!
The general notion of Tom Cruise fighting AI for the future of the world, sign me up. I love it. I love the meta-ness of it. I loved it from the second I realized that AI was the villain in this movie, and it's just like Top Gun. I'm not dead yet. You're a dinosaur, Maverick. Like, hey, I'm not yet, sir. I'm not extinct. Like that energy of just like, hey, Tom Cruise, you're making another Mission Impossible. I need to fight AI. It's killing the industry. Like,
I wonder what point they made AI the villain. Like, in 2020, is it like whenever they started this, the concepting of this, was it a first iteration thing, or did they get like into shooting and they're like, hey, you know what? This is actually, we should just make this AI. Like, I'd love to know.
We could save a lot of money if we don't have to hire an actor for the villain role. We just make it be a computer. It's just AI. I wonder.
I really do wonder at what point in the process they made that decision.
No, it's pretty funny. It couldn't be more topical right now. Like, to come out in the middle of the strike with everything, it's really wild. Do you have any thoughts on the cast?
The main thing is Hayley Atwell's character. Yeah. Not her performance, but she sucks throughout the movie. Like she constantly, Tom Cruise does nothing, everything he can do to save this girl multiple times. And all she does is fuck him, not like metaphorically.
Tries to kill him by handcuffing him to a steering wheel.
Over and over, and then he keeps trying to save her over and over and over again.
He's really attached to this girl.
And then the big conflict is fucking one of these two women are gonna die. The love of your life, who's been in the last 3 movies, or this bitch who keeps trying to kill you.
This fucking pickpocket you just met.
Yeah, that you met 15 minutes ago. What's it gonna be? And I go, what the fuck? Like who?
And he's so
I just
torn.
can't kill her, and let's fucking move on. Let's all be happy. Like that was the worst ultimatum. Like, oh no, what's he gonna do? I was like, get the fuck out of here. It really took me out.
Yeah, no, we thought that too. Where it's like, oh, okay, so he's clearly trading in for a newer model. Like, okay, Hayley Atwell, she's a pretty girl. I think I'm a little tired of Rebecca Ferguson. Let's switch it up. And then I was going to say something funny about switching in for like a younger model. Hayley Atwell, 1 year older than Rebecca Ferguson. I was surprised to learn.
Wow.
No disrespect to either of those beautiful women, but I figured Rebecca was like, hey, you're almost on the wrong side of 40. We got to sub her out for the 28-year-old, but it turns out Hayley Atwell 41. But yeah, that was silly.
It's just silly.
That was one of several very silly things. Like, why do you give a shit about this girl this much?
At all. Like at all. Yeah. And then it leads to the death, which is supposed to be this, like, I assume an emotional moment for people in the franchise. We get Tom Cruise watching a sunset for 8 seconds, and then who gives a shit?
Well, then why did she die? Like, why did she pull out a sword? Well, that whole sequence was really nuts to me. Like, I couldn't really tell what was happening. Like, Hayley Atwell was running away again, but somehow she ended up where that guy was. And then Rebecca Ferguson was just there, and instead of just like shooting him, though we know she's a weapons expert, she draws a sword, and I'm like, what the fuck would you do that for?
Because swords fight. Because sword fights are fun.
There was quite it started to get a little more bonkers than I might be used to from a Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah.
It started to, I wouldn't say it 100% jumped the shark, but there started to get some shit coming into this one more obviously than previous ones where I was like, okay, this is a little stupid.
Yeah, that was that like sequence where from her, like, make your choice, Ethan, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
To her death. Like, was one kind of sequence, and I was like, that was the one where I was just like, can we just think about this part for? Because if you think about it for 1 second, you'd see that this is a mistake.
You don't truly sit down and read a script. They build a script around what's happening.
The other really stupid things that I'll say, like that take me out, because that's the other thing. It's like, it's not just like, oh, nitpicking to nitpick. Having stupid, unrealistic action things happen takes away from the really awesome shit that happens that's a little more realistic. So like that sequence I mentioned at the beginning with the train cars falling off the edge, that was phenomenal. Like I was just at the edge of my seat and I wished it meant more to me, but because the fucking villain had just dove off of a speeding train and landed in a pickup truck bed on a road below the train track, oh, that guy would be splattered across like that. So then when that happens, yeah, exactly. He knew the right second to jump, and it's just not how gravity works. It's not how physics works. Like, so then something like that happens, which should be so consequential. That's your main villain getting away in the stupidest way possible. So then when this actual cool, kind of more realistic thing is happening with the train cars falling, it doesn't mean as much because I'm just like, oh, nothing really matters anymore. Like, you've lost that realness. The same way as in the climactic moment before Tom Cruise arrives on the train, oh, he just happens to crash through the wall of that train car at the right time to take out the guy who's about to shoot the girl.
Yeah.
Like, when that happened, I honestly was like, I'm out. Like, it doesn't matter what happens from here on. That was so stupid. That was so stupid.
You were 2 hours and 30 minutes in, so they were fine.
I know.
Leaving you
I got
at
a
that
great
point.
2.5 hours.
You know what was like? I thought that was stupid too, and that happens. Like, boy, is that convenient. But you know what was worse than that? When they did it again, 10 seconds later to save them again, because the other guy picks up a gun or so grabs some, and the shoot pulls Tom Cruise in
him out,
another
yeah.
direction, like accidentally. I hate when shit happens accidentally. I hate it. I hate it.
Really important shit. Like, really important shit shouldn't really happen accidentally unless that's part of the point. Unless the fact that it happened accidentally is the point. Like,
Yes. And that is not the point of
it's
that.
just random noise. So this movie that, again, has been very practical and very realistic, like, it loses some of that for me when so much of your climax is dumb. Like, when they're fighting on the fucking roof of that train, and then the guy's like got the switchblades that he's like digging into the train, which you wouldn't be able to do anyways. Trains, not a soft material on the outside, not just cheese you can dig into. But he digs one in at one point and then uses both hands to like swing down it, I think. Like he's using his full weight on the knife. And I was just like, these are like nitpicky, sure, but fuck, man. Like that's not how things work. Like
in the movies they do. In the
It's
movies
stupid.
they do. In the movies they
snaps
do.
me out of it.
I was going to give an example of action that I think this film does well that I don't think other films even pay attention to. I was
Do go
impressed.
on.
I noticed it here and then Fallout, because I really did like Fallout. I really enjoyed
Fallout rules.
What I think they do so well in terms of action is not only do they have big action set pieces with heart-pounding moments, they find time to give suspense within action moments that don't have like a direct conflict of like a villain or like a chase or whatever. So what I mean by that, which is probably convoluted, but what I mean by that is when they're on top of the train and those lights are coming by. Like, that's not a villain out to get anyone. That's just a shitty situation that they're now in, that they're kind of like maneuvering, and you're like, oh, like, it made me feel a little claustrophobic. Like, oh man, could you imagine just being in there and having to like navigate that world? Like, and we lived in that moment for an extended period of time, and you just kind of feel claustrophobic. You feel tense, not because of the fight, but because of the nature of being in that situation. Same thing with the train scene at the end. The fight's over. Guys off the train, they're just trying to live. The piano's gonna fall on them. They're just one by one. And I kept thinking in my head, I was like, is this train ever gonna just stop? Because in most films, it gets right to the edge, it teeters for a second, and that's it. And they have to like dive off or whatever, and it's over. But there's another 10 minutes of just slowly the train fall. And I think that's super interesting. That sort of like negative space of action that they live in. Routinely.
And all that stuff's like more interesting, I'd say.
I think that shit's really well done, and I don't see it really anywhere else. So it deserves credit.
I cannot heap enough praise for the third or fourth time on that fucking sequence where the train's falling and they're climbing up. I thought how clever, how genius. It's really fun. And that, like, you could make the whole, like, you could make a movie feel like that. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I wish this movie was a little less 25-minute chase scenes through Rome and a little more just like, really intense, thrilling, you know what I mean? Like suspenseful, things like that. Like that would be more fun to me personally.
I think it's cool. I agree. But I want to give credit to that, at least part of it. Can you explain to me how Gabriel communicates with the entity? Like, how does he know the future? How does that man, at the end, when he
The entity has informed him of all of this before he goes to interact with people. The entity has said...
To who? How? What does he... How? How does he know?
Because the entity has calculated all possible...
Not the entity. How do they communicate?
Well, it could call him and do voice stuff. It could text him. It could email him and say, this is what's going to happen.
AOL chat?
Yeah. How do we all communicate with each other? How are you and I communicating right now? Like this advanced AI that can run the world could very much replicate your, I was gonna get really insulting. I didn't do it. I took a lot of self-control. Could replicate your body and sit there and talk to me.
Just eat a lot of cake. You'll get this body in no time.
I was worried for a minute at the beginning, like as I was trying to understand, I was like, oh my God, this fucking guy's like a cyborg. I thought like, oh, he's literally like a robot.
But that's kind of how they present him.
It's Terminator. It's Terminator. Like they've jumped the shark. He's now fighting like a Terminator robot. So I was glad it wasn't.
I just couldn't get over how he kept when he slit Carl Elway's throat and then turned to the other woman and was like, "You will betray me." Like, how did you know that real time? How did you know that real time?
I don't know.
Because an hour before that told you potential outcomes, 10. So he's got to memorize 10 different outcomes that could potentially happening because that
maybe
part
he's got
really,
an earpiece. I don't know. Maybe he's got an earpiece. Maybe he's got a chip. Maybe he's got one of Elon Musk's
showed an
chips.
earpiece with a thing being like beep boop bop bop bop.
He's got an Elon Musk chip in his head.
Fine, then tell me that so I can stop fucking worrying. Like, how do you know all of the things that the computer thinks? You're not a computer, or are you?
Yeah. Well, that's just an element of the confusion because those scenes are already kind of confusing. But now you got this guy that's just like pulling shit out of the thin air, seemingly, and it gets a little like it's hard. I'm saying like it's hard to know the motivations or understand. Like, and I don't mean their personal motivations. I just mean even their motivations in that moment, like their character motivations in that moment. Sorry, baby. Why are they doing what they're doing? And that's just all kind of a miss in those scenes where it gets really crowded, where you have 14 characters again that you kind of have to have some understanding of what they're doing, why they're doing it, what side. Like you have to keep track of those people. That's all I'm saying. They're not main characters, but I need to know what they're doing because they factor into this pursuit. So that gets to be a lot, especially when you got one guy making shit up and all these people trying to double cross. Like it's hard to keep track. Like I still, and maybe I'm an idiot. Call me an idiot. Ha 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 ha.
You're an idiot.
But like I still don't really understand like how Cary Elwes fit into it and what his character was trying to accomplish. And I don't really understand, like it was Kittredge. I thought Kittredge was there at the end to kind of do something nefarious, but then no, he's on the good side. We trust him. Like what they do trust him because Hayley Atwell at the end trusts him to say, "Let me into the club." Like all because
she had no other options.
Well, no, I get that, but like, what? Then why not trust the American, feds? Like, I just the overall like org chart of these characters is still mushy to me, even as I leave the film, and I think that's not great. Like, I think I understand some loose ends. It's a cliffhanger. There's going to be some loose ends. I don't need like hard and fast answers, but like I need to have some sense of, oh, did that matter that he killed Cary Elwes, or like what was he trying to sell out the country? Like I just don't really get it, and because it's so over the top, overstimulation, I don't really care at a certain point, and maybe that's why I don't get it because after a 25-minute action sequence that gets a little redundant, even if it's great and practical, my brain is just kind of like okay, goddamn, okay, okay.
That's the biggest in my most professional criticism I could give the film is the biggest problem with this film is there's not enough character work to get you close to any one character. There's just not enough groundwork done in any of that stuff to get me close for anything to really emotionally matter. So it's a tough when I don't care when characters die. I don't understand the weight of things when people make decisions. It's just happening, and I go, oh, interesting.
And you're shoehorning in this backstory of Gabriel killing this love of Ethan Hunt's life that happened 35,
was that
40
part
years.
of the first one? I saw the first one 30 years ago.
One.
So
I was like, did that happen in one of those middle ones that I forgot? But I don't
remember. So that's just brand new information.
I think it's brand new, and if it's not, we apologize. We take this all back.
Yeah,
but
I don't remember.
Brand new. That's kind of stupid.
Yes.
Oh, it's like that is very Fast and the Furious. Like, oh, Jason Momoa was actually the villain's brother from part 5 that was there and you just didn't see him. but now this guy Gabriel's been his arch nemesis off camera for 40 years. Like,
Yeah, just
so now
waiting for this day.
That doesn't matter to me. It's supposed to. Like, the movie wants it to matter because, oh, it was his when he was young. It doesn't matter to me because I don't know that woman that he stabbed. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't give a shit about Ethan Hunt's
I
life.
honestly
pre-IMF.
assumed it was from one of the movies I haven't seen, or I just forgot about it in the first one.
No, it's not in the first one. The first one is a wild movie, imperfect, but a great time and very like polished, like a very smart movie, I think. But so it wouldn't have any of that garbage in it. It's fine. I just wish it was better. Like I like seeing really good movies that really excite me, and this movie it did that a little bit. Like it did it a little bit, and I had a good time sometimes, but it's like it's hard to even feel like I'm leaving the theater on a high of this awesomeness when I'm fucking tired at the end. Like I'm like, man, this last 20 minutes can really like, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
and then when you know it's gonna be that long, then there's sections in the middle where I'm like, oh, okay, like this can probably be cut. Like you could probably lose this. You know what I mean?
Stop editing stuff.
Yeah,
Then
it's
you
just in
wouldn't-
my
then you
head
wouldn't know
when
what
you.
to
It's like Jesus Christ, guys. Jesus Christ.
He's
It's
in the
fine.
movie. His name's
Huh?
Tom Cruise.
It's Tom Cruise?
I said he's in the movie. His name's Tom Cruise. He said, Jesus Christ.
Oh, well, yeah, Keith, come on.
It's a-
Good thing you're not a writer.
It's hard. My jokes are funny.